Well, something. There we go. Well, it looks like the camera's off a little. Hang on. Oh, my top of the line equipment here. No. Well, bear with me. I'm sorry. I do apologize. There. At least now my chin's not cut off. Not that I couldn't stand to cut it off. Anyway, welcome to the Curmudgeon number 35. Who'd have thought I'd been doing this for 35 times? Number of things to talk about. Also, a reminder that there won't be a new one of these a week from now because I'll be in Texas, in Dallas precisely, and I'll go into that in a little while later. But a couple of things to talk about. Got some interesting responses to talking about music. And of course, this is the Bards of Greyhawk thing. And how I said, sometimes music it lends, sometimes it distracts. When you've heard it many times, it doesn't. Okay, well, we all know the Immigrant Song, Come from the Land of Ice and Snow. I had an old group that if they heard that Bring Me My Broadsword, they'd all jumped up and started singing it like the Brits in Zulu. So yeah, music can be a distraction, but it can also be an incredible mood setter, and not just for RPGs. When my gaming group, my gaming friends are over every other Wednesday, I usually have my CD changer full of instrumental Celtic music playing softly in the background. There's a series of CDs called Celtic Twilight, 5 or 6 of them, quite good. I'm a big Celtic music fan. I'm also a fan of bagpipes, but yeah, bagpipes don't work in a game unless you're fixing to battle with a horde of something nasty. But there's several artists, musicians that I've found have good stuff to listen to, so I'm going to share a few of them for you. Rick Wakeman, the organist from Yes, had several good solo instrumental, or mostly instrumental albums that were, well, I like the music, but they also lend themselves well in the background of an RPG. We used to play them in the games, the sessions that we played in my living room when I lived in McCanda, when I was still down in Southern Illinois. We often had Rick Wakeman on in the background. The Moody Blues. There are some Moody tunes. There's some great Pink Floyd stuff, some great instrumental stuff. I don't know if it's distracting to everybody. I like it. One of my favorite Pink Floyds has one of the longest titles of any music I've ever heard. Several species of small furry animals gathered together in a cave, grooving with a pick. Yeah, the blue guy. Anyway, who else? I have a marvelous 3-disc compilation of the Lord of the Rings soundtrack. And if you've seen the movies, you'll call up visions in your mind, but it makes great play. Let's see. David Arkenstone, a new age, I guess you call him, artist, has several good CDs that lend themselves well to this. Lorena McKinnon is good, soft background, haunting. Some of it's quite good. Clannad, the Celtic group, some good stuff. Let's see, who else do I have down here? I have to put my glasses on. I can't read my writing. Apologize for that. One of these days I'm going to go write better or see better. Mark Isham. Great stuff. Paul Winter, another one. And then there was a guy that did a Kickstarter called Gil Luna. I've heard some of that, and it's quite tasty. So if you're looking for something in the background just to cover the awkward pauses and silences, some of that's quite tasty. If you're looking for music to listen to while you're waiting for everybody to get there, Dan the Bard. It's got some great stuff, and of course it's all RPG oriented, so it's great fun. Music can be a distraction, but music can also be a mood setter. There's a gentleman that runs one of the most interesting and immersive RPG sessions I've seen at Total Confusion, out on the East Coast, in Massachusetts. And he has lighting and music and sound effects and everything, and it's quite immersive. And so some people would find that to be overload, more than they could process, and that's okay. It's all in what you want to delve into. It's kind of like a participatory play at that extreme, and that's probably more than some people want to deal with. And that's one of the other things I was going to talk about tonight, and that is, how does your table roll? How do you guys play at your table? Do you play a mix? I got to write something down there so I don't forget it. Sorry. I know I'm terrible at this camera stuff, but anyway, how does your table roll? Do you have players that all play in voices? And voices often involve bad accents. Do you play adversarially? And I'm an adversarial type, in that old school of play was you sat down at the table and you weren't trying to get over on the DM. That would be the wrong mindset, and that's really not how we played. But you were trying to beat the problem, solve the problems that the DM was putting over on you. And you knew you did well when you got an oh damn it. And an oh damn it is when you figured out something, or you did something so brilliant. Without going into details, a friend of mine was relating how his party is some of both camps. Some of them are totally immersed in the role playing and almost a theatrical bent, the voices, everything. And I'll be the first to admit that's a little deeper than I go. I have tread on that side of the line a few times, once memorably down at North Texas RPG Convention, which I'm going to talk about later, and I'll talk about that then if I remember it. But I'm more of the, all right, solve the puzzle. I'm the smart rat at the end of the maze. It says, all right, how do I get through here, get the cheese, and not lose my tail or my head? Both of which would be painful, one eminently more painful than the other. So that's the way I understand to play, and that's the way I expect the people on the other side of the screen, and I use that as a metaphor more than a physical barrier, because I don't even use a screen anymore. I have a whole new kind of game I run, and I'll talk about that when I get to Texas. And when I get to talk about Texas on my list here, that's what I'm looking at. So how does your group play? Are you all into the roles and into voices and funny accents? Does every dwarf have a bad Scottish accent? Does every elf sound like he's Irish, or whatever? I don't know. I don't have a lot of experience with that, except by the occasional person that sits down at one of my tables at a con and goes into that. And I'm always respectful of the energy that goes into that and the effort that goes into that. I don't pretend to understand it, except, maybe I do a little, because when I was younger, I was in some plays and stuff in 9th grade, 10th grade. And I kind of I understood getting into another skin and doing that. So I'm not criticizing it. It's just an interesting form of play. I don't get too many of those at a con, obviously, because at the con, they're here to solve the puzzle. and try to survive, or if they can't, well, at least have a glorious death and have me sign their have them sign their PC sheet that they died a good death, and that's the end of it. So just an interesting thing. Both are for interest. Both can be fun. I'm going to Texas next week to the North Texas Role-Playing Game Convention in Dallas, and this is the 10th one. And I'm extremely fortunate that I have been invited to every one of them. And I look forward to it. It's a different kind of con. Every con has its own feel and flavor. Gamehole is like a big medieval fair. Hi, everybody, come here and see the marvels and check all this stuff out and get together and socialize, have a good time. Gary Con is to me at least, because of my associations, is a homecoming gathering of the old clan. Total Con is this amazing thing that takes over the whole facility that they're in, runs like clockwork, has every kind of game going you can think of. Very little commercial orientation to it, very tiny gamers room. So it has a whole different vibe. Plus, they've been going for 35 years. So everything has a different vibe. Texas has a vibe has more guests, guest being a capital G, meaning somebody that's connected to the industry in some way or another, a writer, an artist, a publisher, whatever. More guests per capita versus attendees at any convention you could possibly go to. If we wanted to, we could all have our little salon of about 20 gamers, our own little clique the whole weekend. One of the beautiful things about it is that those of us in the industry find ourselves often with time on our hands. And so we get to contact each other. We get to sit down and have an actual conversation with somebody that we only get to see a couple times a year. Maybe we used to work with them every day, and now we see them, 2-3 times a year at game conventions, hither and yon, pulled and pushed. And this con, we get to sit down, we get to chat, we get to play. This is the game a couple of years ago, a charity game that I was induced to play in. And I was given a gnome illusionist, I think, or some first level nothing. I didn't even have anything to hurt anybody unless they believed it. And I was given a quirk. Doug likes giving all the players a quirk. And so I role played the hell out of that, because every time I played up to the quirk, my whole end of the table cracked up and laughed once they figured out what was going on. So I had fun doing that. But most of the time, I'm the one sitting there, okay, asking the questions, trying to figure this, trying to figure that, trying to solve the puzzle. I'm trying to get to the cheese at the other end with the fewest number of dead ends. Texas is the opposite. Texas is, let's all just have fun. Let's say hi, how you been? You get to see some of the same people every year. I'm running a new kind of D&D game now where you could sign up to all 4 of the game sessions that I'm running, and it would not be the same. In fact, I have people for the first time that have signed up for multiple sessions to take me up on that challenge because they've heard of other people talking about this new weird game we're playing. It's D&D. It's old school. It's D&D / just into the first edition AD&D, and it's mainly for laughs. And if people get killed, it's a really horrible accident, or they did something colossally stupid that just had no recourse. That's only happened a couple of times. So the style of play at that table is going to be laughs and fun. And that's what I do at Texas. I'm also responsible for having infected Texas with chariots, and they took it to extremes that I find too extreme. And this year I'm going to infect them with a new racing game called Dirt Track Saturday Night. Now, just to pat myself a little on the back, on Monday, on the holiday, where was I? Was I home grilling with the family? No. I was doing research. My new good friend, Thaddeus Moore, from down Lexington way, who I met at Gary Con, who we really hit it off on this particular game, which is about dirt track racing. So we planned long ago, got tickets. The World of Outlaws came to Lawrenceburg Speedway. Here, it's about a 40-minute drive from my house. So he drove up to my house, parked it. We drove down. We watched dirt track racing just so we could do some research. And, oh, yeah, there's that move. Oh, yeah, there's that move. So I just want you to know the realism I try to bring to this game. Now I'm bringing it to Texas. Now, we don't run the wing sprints because that's a much more complex set of rules. We run late model modified. It's a boatload of fun. I think it's more fun than chariots. And I've run chariots both for Avalon Hill and just for grins for over 30 years. I think this game's more fun. Doug Ray, the gentleman who puts this big thing on, has already made sure that there'll be a map down there for me. He got a copy of the one I had made at great personal expense. He got a copy, so all I have to do is take my cars down there, which ought to be interesting when they go through the fluoroscope and they see, oh, these little Matchbox race cars in a cigar box. See how that goes. And then, of course, all those dice. Then they'll know, okay, he's a gamer. So anyway, I'm doing that at Texas. Texas is great fun. Also, my son and his family live in Dallas, Flower Mound to be precise. So I'll get to spend a few hours with them while I'm down there. And I'll get to see my sister, who's going to be there on Sunday, and the quilt. Now, I got to tell you about the quilt that my sister's making. My sister, who's about 10 years younger than me, got all the handy skills of our mom. She's great with a needle and thread and all sorts of crafty things, and even has a great big serious quilting machine in one of the rooms of her home. And so I was pondering what to do with all these game con shirts that no longer fit me after I lost all the weight after the operation. And she said, well, you could have somebody make a quilt out of them for you. And I said, oh, well, who would that be? And she goes, well, I do. Now, my sister lives in Austin, Texas. So we only get to correspond back and forth. And we've only seen each other a couple times in the last 20 years. And so she's making me a quilt. I sent her 29 convention shirts. Some of them, people are going to have a heart attack when they see that I cut them up to put them as part of a quilt because of what they are, like the first Gary Con and stuff like that. I mean, I can't wear them. I can't give them away because I don't want some dead guy under the bridge wearing, a shirt with particularly one of the ones with my name on them. So anyway, she's making me a quilt. I've seen the type of quilt that it made out of college T-shirts, quite striking. I'm not going to have an opportunity to display it down there. However, I am going to put it on display at Game Hole. I'll find somebody who's got a back wall that doesn't have much on it that wants to draw a lot of attention to their booth, and we'll hang it from their back wall just so people can see it. And I told my sis that there's a good possibility that there may be other people interested in various sizes or whatever. And so she's going to have a tentative side job here, making up some quilts for people, perhaps. I don't know. But anyway, I'm looking forward to seeing that quilt, and then I'm going to have it shipped up because there's no way I'm going to get that in my little tiny roll-on suitcase. All right, what else we got to play? Oh, well, besides Texas. And if you got a chance to go to the con in Texas, you really ought to go. Ton of fun. I know Errol Otis is going to be in my Saturday night game. He put me to the test. Like I always say, I can always squeeze in one more. So Errol got squobs in. So I'm looking forward to that. That should be some good laughs. This wheel game that I run, I call it the Wheel of Blame, with apologies to Terry Pratchett. And I'm blanking on the other guy, the Discworlds and etc. Anyway, everybody gets an index card, and they put down 2 things. And then out of those index cards, I make up the adventure as we go along using those. And many of those things, it's possible. And so far, I've been able to use every single thing. And sometimes I mix what's on the cards, and sometimes I work both things on the cards, no matter how preposterous, into the same encounter. And the Discworld references that the next encounter is always, oh yes, the mist clears up ahead. And of course, they walk and they walk and they walk, and pretty soon they're there. And of course, they never do catch on. The characters never catch on to the fact that they're in a giant disc. So, looking forward to that. Looking forward to seeing all my friends in Texas. I will give you a full and probably irritating report on it when I come back. And the last thing I want to talk about is I'm going to bring it up again this time, and that's half damage. And the reason I decided to bring this up is because I just was watching a couple of YouTube clips as I was getting ready to do this. And I watched a couple of the Daenerys Stormborn clips from the Game of Thrones, when she became the mother of dragons and the little ones fried the dude. Then when she came back and toasted the ship with Drogon, toasted the fleet. And then again when she came back and toasted Jaime's army. And the horrifying awesomeness of what, it's all fantasy, thank God. Because if that stuff was real, whoever had a dragon wins. Because nobody's going to stand out there and get turned into an ash that looks like those snake things out of the black tablets that you lit when you were a kid that crumble to dust and blow away in the wind. So I'm looking at this, and there's all these guys screaming, running around, turning into crispy critters. And immediately came to me half damage. So in that case, I guess half damage assumes that you're on the extreme outside edge of that horrifying, more effective than napalm because of the sustained blast and the coverage of that sustained blast. Or else, hey, let's just admit it, we're in a fantasy game. Nothing's real, and it certainly isn't anything near real. I mean, come on. A fireball. Half damage? Right. It's fantasy. That's how you fall down a 100-foot pit and don't die. It's fantasy. Get over it. Either accept it or don't. If you don't, well, don't ever put a dragon in your campaign, because it will kill everything. And on that cheery note, I think I'll wrap this up. Adieu.